over the past decade, Marvel has infused us with 39 movies and shows, and this week, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is the 39th project in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. And with that said, we have 70 MCU heroes to rank from worst to best. Yes, I said 70. I went over, I made sure that I hit every single hero that I possibly could. This is going to be a big list, and I can't wait to see your guys' thoughts. I'll make sure to put them down below in the comment section. That way you guys can choose your own ranking if you wanted to leave your 70, or maybe just leave your top 10, as well as make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I'm insane. I'm a geek. I love talking movies and TV, so if you also love doing that, this is truly the place for you. But without further ado, let's dive into this right now. Just as a little bit of housekeeping, there will be spoilers for each and every movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as well as shows. So if you are not comfortable or caught up, you are warned, specifically with Wakanda Forever. Coming in at my number 70 is Sprite. This is one of the characters from the Eternals that truly, I like the performance from her, and I like her design, and I like her powers, but when it comes down to it all, this is a character that makes some dumb choices that I was not fully for, and I personally did not like that. That kind of just turned me away from the character, and every time I've gone to watch the Eternals, this is the one character that kind of just makes me go, really? My number 69. Yes, I said 69. We have Ajax. This is Salma Hayek's character. Again, another character from the Eternals, and these two are my least favorite for one particular reason. They don't really get much to do. When it comes down to the context of the story, they don't get a lot to do, and we've only seen Sprite once. Ajax is dead. We will not be seeing her again, but Salma Hayek did do a good job playing her. And now at my number 68 is John Krasinski's Mr. Fantastic. Now, I was really on board with saying Krasinski should be Mr. Fantastic. That would be great. Fan casting. And then he was in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness and died. Now, he's low on the list for one particular reason. While it was awesome to see Mr. Fantastic in this world, I wasn't too keen that, he just gave up, what Black Bolt's main weakness is, as well as just certain elements in there, and he didn't really do anything when it came down to his powers as well. I understand this was a way to show Scarlet Witch how powerful she is, but for me, he really didn't do shit in here. Now, my number 67 is Korg. Now, Korg is a character that I like him. I think he's funny. But as a hero, he doesn't really do all too much, and the only reason he's a little bit up higher on here is because he's done a little bit more than everyone else. He was in the Battle of Endgame, he was in Ragnarok, created a revolution. In Thor: Love and Thunder, he kind of helped for some of it, but overall, he's just more comedic relief, and he's a fun hero to be around. Now, my number 66 is America Chavez. Now, I think this character will actually go up the more and more we see her, because when it comes down to Multiverse of Madness, I just don't think we got enough of her in there for me to really go as far to say, yeah, let's include her higher up on this list. Great performance, great chemistry with Mr. Strange and Wong as well, and I really like her powers, and I think there's going to be a nice, interesting dynamic to her in the future, so when we revisit this list down in the future, this is absolutely going to go up. But still, I just feel like she wasn't really all there too much. Now, my number 65 is Quicksilver. Now, I really like Quicksilver from the comics, but sadly, Aaron Taylor Johnson's version is only in one movie, and they have never really moved him forward from there. I wanted a lot more from this character personally, and I think he was just a crux to push Scarlet Witch in a different direction. Now, my number 64 is Black Bolt. Now, a lot of you guys might be wondering, well, Zach, he literally didn't do anything. He didn't even speak a word. He didn't even get to use his power. That's true. But I really like Anson Mount as the character. I think they really did a good job designing the design of the character, and I actually have a gut feeling we're going to see a little bit more of him in the future, so maybe I'm a little bit of a hypocrite for some of the reasonings for why the other ones didn't get in here, but I really dig Black Bolt, and I was happy to see him in here. Now, my number 63, we have Pepper Potts. Now, Pepper Potts, for me, I liked her being able to suit up. I've liked Gwyneth Paltrow's performance in here. She's personally, for me, not really a hero through all of the MCU movies, but when we're coming down to people who have suit up, who've gotten in the action, it was pretty cool to see her in Avengers Endgame, and I won't lie, she's a great character within the MCU. Now, my number 62 is the only duo of characters we have in here, which is Lashana Lynch's Captain Marvel, as well as Brie Larson's Captain Marvel. I really like both of them. I think Brie Larson can be a little bit too cocky. We didn't get enough of Lashana Lynch, but I liked what her personality was in there. I wish we got a little bit more from Brie Larson. I fully expect for Brie Larson to move up in this list, and that's why I'm going to finally separate them. They were just for a tie. I really didn't know where to push them both up or down. They both have the same set of superpowers. I just need more of both of them. At my number 61 is Professor X. Now, this, of course, does not take on the whole baggage of what we got to see in Logan and the other previous X-Men movies, but it is hard to distinguish that and not put that and have it be a piece of this ranking. So just as a point of context for that, yes, part of my reasoning for putting him up here is because of those. But I also had to put aside all of those and just think about Patrick Stewart, Professor X, in the MCU, and I thought he was pretty damn good. I liked what we got of him. Wanda sadly took him out way too fast, and I wanted a little bit more of a battle there with the minds. But man, it was great to see Professor X inside the MCU, and specifically Patrick Stewart introducing him. We get to my number 60, which is Ironheart. Now, I really am not a huge fan of Riri Williams from the comics. I think she's fun at times, but overall, I'm not a big fan of these characters like, oh, we got another Iron Man. Oh, we got another version of the Hulk. Oh, man, was I wrong for the movies. I thought Dominique Thorne did a fantastic job bringing to life Riri Williams inside Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And while I definitely think you probably could have rewritten to get rid of that character to really just make it about Talcon and Wakanda, it's hard for me to go against that and be like, well, man, that kind of would have made me sad, because I think Riri Williams elevated and gave a lot of nuance to this movie. And I thought it was very important. I like the suit. I'm looking forward to her show more than I ever was before. And honestly, she deserves a spot on this list. My number 59 is She-Hulk. Now, before you start rioting and freaking out, Zach, why is she even up that high? I know a lot of you guys hate this show. For me, Tatiana Maslany is absolutely incredible in the role and deserves to be at least this high. Now, I think She-Hulk's going to work better in a supporting role going forward. That's how I've always liked her from in the comics. But I will also say I did enjoy parts of her show. I just don't think the show was elevated and executed in the way. But what I'm talking about is character and power set, and I enjoyed seeing She-Hulk get down and kick ass, specifically when she was with Daredevil. That is when that show worked, and also she can break the fourth wall. Now, while we have another breaking the fourth wall demon coming very soon, which I'm very excited for that, She-Hulk's fun, and I like that that's one of her powers. Now, my number 58 is Mantis. Now, I've always really liked Mantis, but we've really gotten such small time with her. The emotional depth we kind of learned about her in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was important, as well as I'm sure whatever we get in the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, since it looks like it's going to be her and a Drax main story. But when it comes down to this character, while it has great performances, there's just not a lot here. My number 57 is Heimdall. I love Idris Elba. I think this is so good. It just sucks that he's playing a character that sadly has died and gone to Valhalla, as we have seen in Thor Love and Thunder. And this is a character that I feel like, or just an actor that you could have put him into almost any other role and he would have destroyed it inside the MCU. And he destroys this role. It's just such a minimalistic role that I wish he got more to do. And now at my number 56 is the Watcher from Marvel Studios' What If. Man, what a powerful performance, like voice-wise, from Jeffrey Wright. I loved seeing the Watcher get down and actually form the multiverse alliance of all these different people. And honestly, it was just a lot of fun, and I'm excited to see whatever the Watcher does next in the future of the MCU, because I think there's a lot of cool elements you could do there. Just please keep Jeffrey Wright involved. Now, my number 55 is Monica Rambeau in WandaVision. Now, I really liked her performance in here, and I was just so in love with what she was trying to do, specifically for just some of the care that you saw for Wanda and other characters that she had inside here, and I'm really looking forward to in Miss Marvel what she's able to do next. My number 54 is M'Baku. Now, I love me some M'Baku. I think M'Baku is like one of the best characters, like side characters in the MCU, and the only reason he's so low on this list is because I personally expected to see a little bit more of him in Wakanda Forever. I find it to be a little bit disappointing that Winston Duke didn't get a ton to do in there, but still, M'Baku is a threat and a hero to all of the people of Wakanda. Now, my number 53 is Nakia. Now, Lupita Nyong'o is one of the best actresses working out there, and for me, Nakia, the same kind of thing that I just said about M'Baku. One, Wakanda Forever, she has important stuff. I mean, she has T'Challa's kid. There's a special element in introducing that all, and also carrying forward in some emotion, and also saving Princess Shuri from Namor. My problem with this is, again, she just doesn't get a lot to do in here. From the first movie to this one, and then she hasn't really been in the MCU altogether, so it kind of just sucks. So I hope going forward she has a more important part within the next Black Panther or whatever they do within Wakanda. And now my number 52 is Nebula. Now Nebula is a character I personally have never really loved in the MCU, but I think Karen Gillan is incredible, and I think the elements that we got of her within Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and Endgame really elevate this, specifically Endgame and all the stuff in there. I think when I see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, she's finally going to be able to skyrocket on this list, but for now, I'm going to put her at this. Now, at my number 51, we're heading back to the Eternals, and this one is Ikaris. Now, technically, Ikaris is a villain and a hero. He's just very much blinded by orders and guidance from the Celestials, and for me, I really like Richard Madden in this role. I think as a hero, he's badass. He's technically the Superman for this world, and I would have loved to see more of him in that role. Sadly, we're not probably going to get more of him, but, you know, as a villain as well, he was very intriguing, and I like that too. My number 50 is Cersei. Now, this is, of course, the lover to Ikaris, as well as Dane Whitman, which, just so everyone knows, Dane Whitman is not going to be included on this list because technically he is not a hero yet. He really did not suit up until the very end of that, and I did not want to include him on here because he would have been very low, and I love Kit Harington. But going back to Cersei, Gemma Chan does an amazing job in this movie, and I really liked the nuance that she gave Cersei. But again, out of all the Eternals characters, she was one of the more least interesting to me personally. My number 49 is Melina, of course, Black Widow's mother and Red Guardian's wife. Man, what an awesome character this is, and I cannot wait to see more of her. Just because of Rachel's performance, she easily elevated it to the standard, and that's the reason she's higher above everyone else. Now, my number 48, we have Wasp. I mean, for me, Angeline Lilly was such a big standout in Ant-Man and the Wasp, but for some reason, this is a character that Endgame, she didn't really get much to do. I understand she was dusted, gone, and she didn't really come back to the final battle. And I'm looking forward to whatever they do within her within Quantumania because I think her performance is great. But this is honestly where it started to get pretty hard for my list because I could argue why I should love each and every one of these characters, and it just more came down to personal bias at this point. Now, my number 47 is Peggy Carter or Captain Carter. Now, we've seen multiple iterations of Captain Carter and Peggy just in general now, and each and every one of them I love in here. I think Haley Atwell, whether it's with her voice or actually playing the character, she kills it each and every time, and getting to see her suit up as Captain Carter, voicing and playing her in live action is such a grandiose thing. I would love to see her again in the MCU within live action, but also if it's just with him What If that we get her more of, I love it. And now at my number 46 is Agent Mobius from Loki. Owen Wilson is such a great hero in here. I expect more from him when we see him in Loki Season 2. For me, when it comes down to all the Loki characters, you're about to see them all right now. He is one of the best heroes in here, but for me, jumping into my number 45 now is Sylvie. I found Sylvie to be a very important character to here. Someone that they distinguished more as a villain until you finally get to meet her and see what her point of view is against the TVA and how the TVA is very corrupt. I loved seeing Sylvie in here, and I thought it was one of the most important elements of the entire show, which leads me to my number 44, which is Loki. Now, I know a lot of people would probably have Loki a lot higher than me, but I look at Loki as more of a villain or an anti-hero, and for me, it kind of keeps him in that center spot. There's only one villain on here that was mostly a hero at one point that's a little bit higher on the list, but when it comes down to everyone else, they've all been heroes all the way through, besides one, which we'll talk about. But for me, Loki is still one of the best performers in here. I think Tom Hiddleston is great, and he's just a very misunderstood character. At my number 43, we have War Machine, Iron Patriot, whatever you want to say. It's Rhodey. I enjoy this character. I think Don Cheadle is so much fun in here. But again, when it comes down to depth and development, he doesn't get a lot to do. I think we'll get a lot more of him in Armor Wars, and that's when I'm seriously going to care. Now, before we get to my number 42, that's better. For the next few, we're going to talk about it this way. I didn't really know how to distinguish them or where to put them, so I thought the middle of the list kind of felt the best. And at my number 42 is Werewolf by Night. What a great opening. First off, this entire short was great, but opening up the werewolf, seeing how he's a hero to save his friend the monster, it's really fascinating, and I like seeing Jack's role in here. I want to see more of him in the MCU. And jumping in next, number 41 is Elsa Bloodstone, another character that I'm a pretty big fan of from the comics, and it was great to see her in here. Now, while Elsa didn't have a lot to do when it comes down to character-wise, there's some interesting developments to see about the Bloodstone, and at my number 40 is Man-Thing. I need more of Ted right now in the MCU. He is fascinating, he's funny, he's charming. It was just such a blast to see him in this. Now, back to non-black and white. At my number 39 is Gilgamesh, the protector of Thena, and for me, one of the best characters in this film, The Eternals. It just sucks that he's dead. He's gone. He's not going to be in future films, but his relationship with Thena was one of the most important elements of it all. At my number 38, we have Phastos, another character that's so fascinating. Brian Tyree Henry gives a lot to this role. And again, I cannot wait to see in the future what they do with him, because I think there's a lot of interesting developments with him. He's one of the smartest beings in the world. I'd love to see, if you put him, Riri Williams, and Shuri all in one room, what they could come up with. And at my number 37 is Kingo. I'm a major fan of Kumail Nanjiani. I think he's one of the best actors out there in Hollywood, and just to see his development from Silicon Valley all the way to here now, he is badass and he's awesome in this role. I love how he's playing an actor at the same time as little finger shooting hands. I want to see more of Kingo right now. My number 36 is Drax the Destroyer. Now, personally for me, I like Drax way more in the first Guardians of the Galaxy than any of the others that we've seen him appear in so far. And a lot of that just goes because he's called Drax the Destroyer and he really doesn't destroy all too much. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, he was very much just the comedic relief and he did a good job as there, but when it comes down to hero-wise, I just didn't love him personally. And then same thing for Infinity War and Endgame, some awesome moments, but overall just nothing that really grabs me too well. I'm hoping Holiday Special and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 push him back up on this list. Now, my number 35 is Bucky Barnes. Now, this is not the Winter Soldier, this is only when he's Bucky Barnes, and for me, I think Sebastian Stan gives a very special and nuanced performance to this role, specifically someone who feels tortured by their past. And we see a lot of this in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I think it's some of the most important elements to this character overall, and I think, again, the reason he's so high is because of Sebastian Stan. Now, my number 34 is Nick Fury. Now, I fully expect for this one to actually skyrocket after we see Secret Invasion, and I cannot wait to see that show because I think it's going to be such a fantastic time on Disney+. It looks to be a very mature series, but for me, it's Samuel Jackson. You can't put him low on the list. The guy got the Avengers together. Number 33 is the Falcon, or technically the new Captain America. This is Anthony Mackie's character, and Anthony Mackie plays this role to a T. I think, for me, if I liked Falcon and the Winter Soldier more, this would probably be way higher on the list, but sadly, since it was not the highest of praises for me personally, I wanted a little bit more from it overall. I still really liked him as the character, and I cannot wait to see him as Captain America. As we get to my number 32, it's Yondu. Michael Rooker's performance in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 steals the show and brings it all the way up here, specifically the father-son relationship that we start to really see developed and what was gone between when it comes down between him and Starlord. And for me, it's an emotional ride. It's one of the most badass rides, and also seeing him with just the whistle was just so perfect. And we have Wongers. Man, I really love Wong, and for me, if we just got more of him in the MCU, when I talk about like actually a developed role, not just distinguished to a side role, but literally like supporting member to the main character, I would love it. A lot of the time they just use him as comedic relief, and he's always a blast, or he's badass when he's in the action scenes. I just need him to have that one central role next to him, and I'm hoping the next Doctor Strange actually includes that. Now we have 30 Marvel heroes left to rank, and I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts, so make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, comment down below your guys' thoughts, and without further ado, let's get back to this. My number 30 is Layla, or the Scarlet Scarab from Moon Knight. Now, I really just instantly loved this character, loved learning the development about her, loved the costume at the very end, and just seeing how no matter what, even before she knew she could have that powers and that armor, she was going off, and I loved it. I think this is a strong performance that I can't wait to see in the future of the MCU. At my number 29 is Okoya. I think Okoya is one of the most important parts of Wakanda itself, and Danai Gurira's performance in Wakanda Forever absolutely excels her to this top level. She gets this new suit of armor in there, she's badass at the same time, and she's also stripped of her rank at one point in time, and seeing her love and emotion for Wakanda itself and how much she truly cares for it all is very important, and I loved it. Now, my number 28 is Angelina Jolie's Thena. I think Thena is actually one of the coolest characters inside the MCU thus far, and I cannot wait to see what they do with her next. I think, again, you're going to hear a little bit more about some of the other Eternals very soon, but for me, Thena is important. She's badass, and she's graceful. Now brings me to my number 27, which is Druig. Barry Keoghan kills it in the Eternals as well, and I love how at first, if you've read the comics, you expect him to be the villain, but he actually is not. He is a hero, pure and pure out, even though he thinks that maybe he's using some of his stuff in the most anti-way possible. His relationship with Makkari is very important. A 3-0 film between him, Thena, and Makkari. And speaking of Makkari, at my number 26 is Makkari. I found Makkari to be one of the coolest characters in the Eternals. I'm a major fan of her, And I'm a major fan of the actress too, specifically because of The Walking Dead and Sound of Metal. I just think she is so freaking great. Lauren Ridloff deserves the world. And the way that Chloe Zhao was able to frame the running sequences in this movie is some of the most important stuff that I've ever seen in the MCU. And it was just badass. Number 25, we have Red Guardian. You know, yes. A very bad Russian accent right now. God, I love David Harbour. I cannot wait to see more of him in Thunderbolts. I think he infused such energy into this character, and a character that honestly could have been so one-dimensional but just was badass at the same time. One of the reasons that I love Black Widow so much is because of the family dynamic that we get in there, and I couldn't get enough of this character. The instant I left that film, I'm like, I need more of him and Yelena, which we'll hear more about Yelena soon. My number 24 is the Hulk. Yes, sadly. The Hulk's like one of my favorite comic book characters, but sadly just everything they've done in the MCU after Age of Ultron has kind of just disappointed me. I liked him in Thor Ragnarok for the most part, but then he just becomes Smart Hulk after that, and every single instance of that, I just miss it. I think Smart Hulk is an interesting character to use to a certain capacity. But that's not the Hulk I love. I want Angry Hulk back. Please give us it back. My number 23 is all versions of Groot. Baby, adult, whatever you want to say it as. I know there are two different versions of the character. I love Groot in general. He's one of my favorite MCU characters. I love seeing him around. A lot of time when they use Groot, it's either for comedic relief or to tear our heartstrings out when he gives for his life in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. My number 22 is Gamora, the daughter of Thanos. Now, I think Zoe Saldana is actually one of the most underrated actresses in Hollywood, and every time she comes to play, she kills it. She was fantastic in Infinity War, and I want to see more of her in the MCU. I know we're getting her in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and I think once we see that movie, I'm going to really see some more development between her and Starlord that'll probably push her up on this list. Now, my number 21 is Hawkeye. Jeremy Renner does a really good job playing this character, and honestly, though, the problem with this is I wasn't too interested in his character until he became the Ronin. And then once he was the Ronin, I was like, okay, I'm sucked in. He lost his family. Let's see how this goes. And the life that he was trying to give within Avengers Endgame was very important and honestly very special to the entire story of the MCU. And then all the development we actually got in his own show was very great. Number 20, we have Kate Bishop, another character that joined Jeremy Renner, but God, Haley Steinfeld infused so much energy in here. I instantly fell in love with her and was like, I need her in something right now. She's so awesome and I love it. And you're going to hear the same thing about my number 20, which is Yelena. Florence Pugh is a goddess. She is like one of my favorite actresses working right now, and I thought she was phenomenal in Black Widow as well as even in Hawkeye. I just want more of this character. The same thing I just said about Kate Bishop. Everything of that comes about because of the performance and how much you start to love these characters, and I cannot wait to see more of them. Now, my number 18 is Natalie Portman's Mighty Thor. I personally still think we're going to see a little bit more of her when it comes down to Avengers Secret Wars, because that's just like everyone come into play. But even though she is in Valhalla right now, her performance in Thor Love and Thunder was powerful. And I know not everyone loves Thor Love and Thunder. I personally do. I love that movie. I love what it stands for. Sometimes the humor gets in the way, but I think Mighty Thor is one of the best elements of that entire movie, and specifically the cancer storyline that they're actually able to infuse in there, and really much how hard-hitting it is to her. And I think it's really cool to see that as a character, so people who might be dealing with that can look at some nuance to that all and see like, hey, like you can still be strong. And I don't know, like there's just something about Natalie Portman's energy in this film that really makes it special. Now, my number 17 is Iman's Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel is one of those characters in the comics that I've always liked, but I never really loved. And when they said that they were going to be giving her own show, and I'm like, why? Why does she need her own show? But was I wrong? Absolutely. Iman infused such energy into this character. It's the same that we saw within Yelena and, of course, Kate Bishop. We saw so much of this character in there, and I fell in love with Miss Marvel. She is one of the most energetic, charismatic characters. Her family is so dynamic. I don't love the change of the power set, but the way they used it, I thought was awesome. I just, in general, want more of this character. I cannot wait to see her in Captain Marvel 2, and I think she's going to add a lot of needed energy into that. Now, my number 16, spoilers for Wakanda Forever. It is Princess Shuri, or Queen Shuri now, the Black Panther. She is the new Black Panther. Rest in peace to Challa. Wakanda Forever. For me, Letitia Wright gave the second best performance in that entire film. Angela Bassett is a goddess. She's not included on here because technically she's not a hero, but she, like, Letitia Wright deserved the entire world in this movie. And for me, I think she was incredible. I loved seeing what she was able to do in here. And I think for me, her performance elevates everything. She's lost everything now. And the cycle of violence and grief and trauma that she deals with in here is very important. And it felt real because of everything that had gone on. And seeing her actually suit up, seeing how badass she is, and seeing her actually get her ass kicked, you know, she is definitely more technology based. I'm excited to see, you know, where she goes next as the Black Panther, because I think that's going to be an important piece to Wakanda, and I have a theory for what I could possibly see happening in Black Panther 3. Maybe you'll hear about that very soon, but I loved Shuri in this, and I think she got a very added bonus being bumped up here. And it didn't feel like you're watching someone take over for a band. It actually just felt like it's an extension of the band continuing in such a prosperous way, and I love that. My number 15 is Paul Rudd's Ant-Man. Ant-Man's just such a great comedic relief. You can't get enough of him. He's so smart. He's so fun. I love the shrinking powers, and for me, every time it comes around Ant-Man, you just gotta have a blast. Plus, Paul Rudd. I mean, there's a reason that you push this up. I think Ant-Man and the Quantumanium, though, is gonna push him up even higher on this list, though. Now, my number 14 is Shang-Chi. I love this character. I was so happy when he came into the MCU, and really much to see how awesome his introduction was. He's badass in his martial arts skills. I like his suit. I like how he has to take down his father. Simu gives an amazing performance in this that's charismatic, but at the same time very emotional and understanding. And again, this is a role that is infused and given by such a fantastic first film in the MCU that really introduces a brand new character and world. Now, my number 13 is Starlord. I'm a major fan of Chris Pratt when it comes down to it. I know people give him shit. I know people give shit to Starlord for messing up everything in Endgame, but remember, Doctor Strange knew that was going to happen. I love this character still. I think he's kind of dumb sometimes, but he's that lovable oaf that you love, and you also just love to follow around. He is a good character. He is a great leader to these people, and I think for me, he's just dealing with a lot, and I'm excited to see what they do with him in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I love Chris Pratt, like I said. Now, my number 12 is Valkyrie. Now, Valkyrie gets this added bonus because, one, I'm a major fan of Tessa Thompson. I just cannot get enough of her in every single performance, but Thor Ragnarok, she stole the show. Thor Love and Thunder, she is the queen. She is awesome. She kills it. I love her suit. I love how badass she is. I love how she swings around and swings the swords. It's just, there's just something special. There's this energy, this aurora that flows off Tessa Thompson that just adds everything. You give her her own spinoff. I don't care. I will be there first day to feel that thing to $1 billion. On my number 11, we have Thor. Chris Hemsworth is so damn good in this role. And for me, I've had this kind of weird dynamic with Thor when it goes back and forth. Sometimes I love this character, sometimes I don't. I think overall he works better when it's in a group of people, specifically instead of when it's just by himself. The first Thor movie is fine. The second Thor movie is not great. It's the weakest film in the MCU. Thor Ragnarok, I've mentioned I'm not the biggest fan of, but I do like him in there. I just thought he was too funny. And then Thor Love and Thunder, while, again, sometimes the humor can get in the way, I actually found him to be a little bit more balanced in his own installment. And for me, seeing his relationship with Natalie Portman's Mighty Thor prosper and actually seeing what he's dealing with there is actually some of the most important part. And then seeing how that film ends and where Thor ends with love in his life is so damn important. I love that, and I think Chris Hemsworth does a great job, but also adding in the best parts of Thor is when we see him in the Avengers films, specifically in Infinity War and Endgame. Especially Infinity War. Like, he still is my favorite character in that entire film, and I cannot wait to see more of Thor in the MCU going forward. On my number 10, we have Moon Knight, Mr. Knight, whatever you want to say. It's Oscar Isaac and kills it. Now, I know a lot of you guys maybe were not a big fan of Moon Knight. For me, I was. This is a character that I've been waiting to see come to live action, and the way that they brought him to life was absolutely everything I wanted to see and more. Now, Oscar Isaac also gives probably one of the best performances in the MCU too. I want more Moon Knight. I think if personally for me, I could argue him higher on this list if we got more of him in the MCU, and I'm hoping that seems to be where they're going. But this character is very interesting, it's very unique, very different, but also badass as hell. Number 9, I might get shit for this one, but Captain America. I've never been a big fan of Captain America when it comes down to the comics. When it comes down to the movies, I think Chris Evans is the reason that this role is saved. I think Steve Rogers is a really important character that gives a lot of depth and arguably has the best trilogy in the MCU. Personally, not for me, but I know for a lot of you guys he probably does. But when it comes down to Captain America, I've always wanted just like more of him. Like, I'm kind of sad that he's gone and out of the MCU for now, because I feel like there's so much more to Steve Rogers that you could really bring and emphasize into this role. But like I mentioned, I love Captain America like 9 and up. It was like choosing your favorite child. It's hard to do. My number 8 is Black Widow. I freaking love Scarlett Johansson in this role, and I know I'm like one of the only fans of the Black Widow movie, but that movie really elevated that character to now where I go back and do my marathons of, like, say I want to learn about all of her story. When I watch that movie heading into Infinity War now, it adds so much added depth. It's insane. Same thing with Endgame. I just love Black Widow in general, and I think Scarlett Johansson embodies that character in such a fascinating way. Number 7 is Doctor Strange, man. This character would be higher if I just feel like they gave him a little bit more development in Multiverse of Madness. It's like literally my biggest issue with that movie, but just speaking on it, the power set, everything other, his action scene, specifically his fight scene between him and Thanos, which was great when he went like this and all the different multiple versions came out of him. It was awesome to see, and I just have a blast every single time I watch Benedict Cumberbatch on the screen. I think he's badass. I think he's awesome in the role, and he embodies Strange in every sort of way. Bring on Doctor Strange 3. Now, at number 6, we have Elizabeth Olsen's Scarlet Witch. Now, if you watch my villain ranking, clearly she's very high up in there because of what they were able to do with her in Multiverse of Madness in the performance she gave, but I still have to keep her as a hero too because of what she decided to do in WandaVision. While she did something that was definitely a villain sort of thing to do, she made everything right in the end. And I love seeing kind of just all of the emotion and buildup that she's ever given to this character. And I think going forward, her redeeming herself is going to be a very important part. And I think that'll be one of the reasons that you'll actually probably see her higher up on this list down the road. My number 5 is T'Challa, Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman. Rest in peace, man. This one hurts. I think Black Panther is like one of the coolest characters. Like getting into the comics like recently, probably over the last 10 years, I've just really dug him. And I think for me, Chadwick embodied like such energy that when you watch Wakanda Forever, you feel a beating heart missing of that story. And that's actually a pro I'm saying to it because it feels like they wrote that in there specifically for him to be missing because then all the characters can feel that too. And I just went back and rewatched the first Black Panther after seeing Wakanda Forever, and his smile is so special. And when you watch Wakanda Forever and you get that final silence of montage towards the end when Princess Shuri is thinking about him, rips your heart out, man. It rips your heart out with how much love this guy gave to every single one of his performances, and specifically when we're just looking at T'Challa, what he was able to give to it. It breaks my heart. I love this character, and I love Chadwick's performance. My number 4 is Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. What else can I say? This is, again, going back and forth. I could argue each and every one of these characters, but Downey gives one of the best performances in the MCU, turns in the best arc of any character so far in the MCU, and I loved seeing where his story ended up going in Endgame. We know he'll probably come back, but even then, I would love it. I want to see more of Robert Downey Jr. in the role of Iron Man. I want to see him interact with Mr. Fantastic and everything of that nature, but this is just one of the most important characters and truly was the start of the MCU. My number 3, we have Rocket Raccoon. Now, I know a lot of you guys are like, Zach, really? Rocket Raccoon? Yes. For me, Rocket's always been one of my favorite characters from the comics and the interpretation that James Gunn puts him in every single iteration that we've ever seen him in, or even in Endgame when the Russo brothers took over him. I love it. I think Bradley Cooper embodies this character with a really great voice. And I think Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I got to see the trailer back at Comic-Con. They're starting to show that this story might be a little bit more about him, and I think it's going to be an emotional journey that breaks us all. Now, my number 2, I'm going to be a hypocrite on this one too. At my number 2 is Charlie Cox's Daredevil. Now, I understand, like I mentioned, I'm not including like anything from the Daredevil show, but it is hard to not keep that nostalgic out. And as well as when you watch She-Hulk, it kind of seems very the same Matt Murdock, just a little bit different. So Daredevil for me is like one of my favorite heroes in the MCU, and like just seeing him in She-Hulk just brought back all those memories of why I love that character so much. And when I was doing this ranking, I had him a little bit lower on those, but then it just didn't sit right with me. So Charlie Cox is the second best hero in the MCU as of right now. Maybe he'll even be number 1 after his show, or even Echo when he shows up in there too. I love this character so much. I think Charlie Cox embodies him in such a perfect manner. And now I'm probably just going to go watch the Netflix show all over again so I can cry because I need Daredevil Born Again right now. At my number 1, it's Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Or maybe you can even argue all the Spider-Man since, you know, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are also in the MCU canon now. But just specifically talking about Tom Holland's Spider-Man, this is a character that I think has the best trilogy in all of the MCU films. When you look at all the characters who have gotten a trilogy and the way that each and every one of the movies leads into the next. And when you look back from No Way Home and seeing that this was his true origin story to becoming Spider-Man, and when he loses everything at the very end, it's sacrificial and it's important. But this character is funny, he's charming, and Spider-Man for me has always been the most relatable character. He's my favorite superhero of all time. So there is a lot of biasness on this. That's how these lists works. It's my bias level. You might not love the interpretation of the MCU Spider-Man, but for me, I've loved every interpretation of Spider-Man that they've done in live action and in cartoons. And for me, I just can't get enough of it. And Tom Holland, for me, is one of my favorites of it all, specifically because of the way that they did his trilogy. I think it's one of the most important things, and I can't wait to see the future of this character. So with all that said, that is my ranking of all 70 MCU heroes. We did it. We did it. We won't be re-ranking this for another year. Alright, so guys, I'm an idiot. As I was doing this ranking of all 70 MCU heroes, I completely forgot to include Vision. It's too late to go back. He'd be somewhere in the middle. Have fun. Thank you so much again, guys, for watching this. Look forward. I have a lot more rankings coming up for the MCU when Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special comes out, which is a Phase 4 ranking, a TV show ranking, a Guardians of the Galaxy member ranking, and I'm also going to be ranking all of the comic book property movies and shows from 2022 right after that as well. So thank you so much again for watching this, and of course, until next time, stay classy.